الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته الغر المحجلين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سهلا. لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we hope you're all well and welcome to our latest class on the book al-Idaah wa Najat al-Arwah. So yeah, we're down at the bottom, halfway down, page 183 on the hard copy. Those who've got the hard copy. In the PDF, I think it was a few pages back. But yeah, we're on the section now. What the follower is to do after the Imam completes a pillar, or other than a pillar, right? A wajib or and so forth. So yeah, Bismillah, if you want to read and then we'll do the commentary, inshallah. Off you go.
If the Imam offers the finishing salams, yet the follower has not completed his tashahhud, then he is to complete his tashahhud.
Yes, so coming to the end of the prayer, the Imam gives the salam, so Imam's finished. You may well still be reading your at-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawatu. You may be somewhere along that recitation and the Imam has given the salam and you haven't finished yet. What do? Do you follow the Imam and finish with the Imam, or do you complete what you're doing, what you're reciting? As it says there, if the Imam finishes and you've not completed, then he is to complete the tashahhud. The tashahhud really here indicates and means up to ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. That's the actual tashahhud, which is wajib. Okay, so you must read that much and then give salam. If you're in the Durood Sharif, the salawat from the Prophet ﷺ, you can also continue to finish that and then give salam, but you don't have to. Whereas if you haven't completed the tashahhud yet, which is up to ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, you must complete that and then give your final salams, inshallah ta'ala. I hope that makes sense. Bismillah, next point, Hassan, over the page.
If the Imam raises his head before the follower completes his 3 tasbih in bowing or prostration, then the follower must join the Imam.
Yeah, so now we're in the sajda. Yep, and in the sajda, the Imam comes out of sajda before you manage to complete your tasbih. Subhan Rabbiyal A'la, Subhan Rabbiyal A'la, Subhan Rabbiyal A'la, sajda. Imam comes out. What do? Do you stay in sajda and finish your tasbih, or do you follow the Imam and sit back up or stand back up, whatever it is? It says here, you follow the Imam and you leave the tasbih. Right? Tasbih is sunnah, and you've done 1 or 2 and not made the full 3. And following the Imam is wajib. So you leave the tasbih and you follow the Imam. Obviously, because tasbih is so short, I'm sure you can fit 3 in. Even if the Imam does get up, you can do quick tasbihat and finish your 3 and then follow the Imam with a slight delay. That's not a problem. But if you miss the tasbihat and you're going to make a major delay, then it's better not to do them and just follow the Imam. Just do a sajda, as in put your head on the ground and then lift it up and follow the Imam. Otherwise you fall back quite a bit. That's not good. So keeping up with the Imam is part of the congregational prayer. Yeah. Okay, next point, Hassan.
If the Imam forgetfully performs an extra prostration or stands up after performing the last sitting, then the follower is not to join him. If the Imam continues ahead and performs the extra rakah by prostrating, then the follower is to give salam alone.
Okay, I need everybody to pay attention here, okay, and listen carefully, right? So in this situation, we have the Imam has prayed. I'm going to draw a diagram for everyone. Can you see that, Hassan? Yep, thank you. So we've got rak'ah number 1, 2, let's say 3 and 4. Right, there's 4 rak'at prayer, okay? So after 2 rak'ats, there's going to be the first sitting here. First sitting. Okay. After 4 rakats, there's going to be the what we call the last sitting. Yeah. So we've got the first sitting here done at the middle, and the last sitting done after 4 rakats. What happens now at this point after 4 rakats? The last sitting, first sitting was done, last sitting was done. Yeah. What happens now is Imam stands. What in technical is 5th rakat, right? Because he's not standing for the 3rd or 4th rakat, he's standing for the 5th rakat, right? But it's not really a rakat, so you don't follow the Imam in something that's not part of the prayer, right? So if this happens now, so this has happened, yeah. If this happens, what do you do? Okay, and I'm going to make a major point here. Just going to highlight this again, that we've done the last sitting. Okay, this is all with the last sitting. Okay, this mas'ala. It says there you do not follow the Imam, right? It says you remain seated, and if the Imam, so you actually, it doesn't say here, but you actually can indicate to the Imam by saying Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, saying something to indicate to the Imam there's a mistake being made, to indicate to the Imam that you need to sit down. So you can not say sit down, you can't use normal language. Tasbih, takbir, la ilaha illallah, any form of dhikr actually can be used. Most commonly is Subhanallah, right? And that would indicate to the Imam, look, sit down, look, people behind you are not standing up and following you. They're waiting, we're here at the last rakat, right? We're on the last sitting. You've done the tashahhud, you've got up for the wrong reasons, you've forgotten. It happens, right? It can happen. If it doesn't say what happens if he stays sit, he comes back down. But if he comes back down, you carry on with the prayer, you're pretty good to go, and that's fine. He's made a mistake in just standing up or sitting down. It's not going to affect the prayer massively. However, if he carries on, which is what is mentioned here, and he performs the sajda, so he's on this fifth rakat. Let's go back to this rakat here. He's on this rakat. What he's going to do first, he's going to read Fatiha. Not a problem. He can come back. You can come back and sit down. After Fatiha, he might read a surah. He might not, because of fard prayer. He might read Fatiha. He's going to do what? He's going to do ruku after that. So Quran and ruku. Okay, he's doing ruku. Not a problem. He can come and sit back down. Okay. When he does this, which is called the sujood or the sajda, right? When he does the sujood, that's it, cut-off point. He's completed the 5th rakat. When he's doing Fatiha, he's in part of the 5th rakat. When he's doing a ruku, he's in part of the 5th rakat. When he's doing a sajda, he's done the 5th rakat, which is one. Second sajda, obviously, as well. But once he did one, he's doing 5 rakats. He's gone to his own prayer. He's left you guys. What do? It says, then the follower is to give salam alone. If he prostrates, so we've said that he's prostrated now. What happens in this case for the follower? The follower here now prostrates, gives salam, gives salams, because you will have read everything, right? Alone. You're sitting there waiting for the Imam to give the salam, basically. You've read everything. He's just got up for some reason. After tashahhud, look, remember, last sitting is done here. Remember this point here, right? Don't forget this very crucial point. So that's how it works, and that's how it's all hopefully understood now, right? So the masala is, Imam stands after the 4th rakat, after doing the last sitting, goes to a 5th rakat, you wait for him, you try and call him back with tasbih, he doesn't, he makes the prostration of that extra rakat, you give salam alone, right? Is that understood, Hassan?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, good. Assalamu alaikum, Basim, how's it going? Yeah, did you get that as well?
Yep, got it.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, carry on, Hassan, then, if you want to carry on reading.
And if the Imam stands up for the 5th rakat, forgetting to perform the last sitting, the follower is to wait and utter tasbih to warn the Imam. If the follower gives the finishing salams before the Imam prostrates in the additional rakat, then the follower's prayer is nullified.
Yep. Okay, thank you for that, Hassan. So, different scenario slightly. Okay, let's go through this one, right? And what I'll do is I'll do it to the side, yeah, of here. Right, so what we'll do here, as you can see, is there's 4 rakats there, okay? There's 4 rakats. And in the previous mas'ala, the 4th rakat had a final sitting, right? Had a final sitting. In this one now, let's draw it on. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Same format of salah. There's going to have a sitting there. Yep. And we'll have one at the end as well. Okay. But what happens now is this one is done. This one wasn't done. As you can see there. Yep. It says, and if the Imam stands, forgetting to perform the last sitting, no last sitting, that blue cross I just made, the follower is to wait. So you wait now for the Imam. And you, like I said, it says there this time in the commentary, and you can say the tasbih to bring the Imam back, warn the Imam. It says, if the follower gives the salam, finishing salams, alone. So now you're waiting for the Imam, waiting for the Imam. We decide to give salam alone. What happens? Look, it says, before the Imam prostrates in the additional rakat, then the follower's prayer is nullified. Okay, so you're waiting for the Imam. He's praying an extra rakat. He's just on the 5th rakat. So he stood here as well. Same scenario happens. Yeah, here. Imam stands for 5th rakat. Okay, but there's no final sitting. Okay, what happens? Same thing. He reads Fatiha, reads Quran, ruku, sujood. Okay, that makes sense. So you decide to make a sajda, to make a salam. I keep saying sajda. You try to give salam before the final sajda. What happens to your prayer? Nullified. What that means, by the way, nullified, is all your prayer turns into nafil. Because remember, we're praying fard with the Imam. Okay, what happens to your prayer? It all turns into 4 rakat nafil. Your salam takes you out of the prayer. You did not pray the fard behind the Imam. Okay, doesn't count as a prayer done behind the Imam, because you missed the rukn, you missed the integral of the prayer, which was this. And the previous one, you didn't miss it. So when you give salam, you did all the integrals with the Imam. You're waiting for him to give the salam, so you can give it salam with him. But salam is not an integral, it's not an absolute must. It's a wajib. It's a necessary component of salah. We said there's a difference between fard and wajib in salah, right? So the sitting with the Imam at the end was a fard. You got that in this situation on the left here, right? On this one, you got the last sitting there, right? The blue tick here. So when you gave salam, that was fine. That give salam alone, it was fine. On this one, if you give the salam, you have not completed your prayer with the Imam. So you've decided to leave the Imam and become somebody who plays nafil. And fantastic, you get 4 nafil. So what happens if this is not going to get nice? It's going to get worse. If you give salam, prayer becomes nafil. Okay, meaning you get a reward of 4 rakats, and they're not wasted. Yeah, you prayed, you did, 8 sajdas, 4 rukus, you stood, you bowed, you did a full prayer, mashallah, but you didn't fulfill the rules of following the Imam, and therefore your prayer is invalid. Okay, if the Imam comes back to sitting down and carries on the prayer, the tashahhud, etc., he'll do a prostration of forgetfulness, whatever, then yes, your prayer becomes valid and all your fard prayers are valid, etc. But on the situation here where the Imam doesn't return, in either of these two situations, the Imam returns, you follow with the Imam and your prayer is fine. Okay, but let's go to carrying on with this scenario where the Imam doesn't come back. He's made the sujood. Okay, once he's made the sujood, he's done the 5th rakat. You can't go back to number 4. You can't go back to a tashahhud. His prayer is invalid because his prayer is nafil as well now. So his father's prayer is gone. Why? Because again, he's missed a rukn, which is again the final sitting, right? So he's missed it. You haven't missed it. You're sitting down, right? You're doing it. He's missed it. So his prayer is not complete. He's missed actually absolute, must of the prayer, which is sit at the end after 4 rakats, right? He didn't sit here. He didn't do that. He stood. Right? He did this thing here at the bottom, right? He stood for a 5th rakat. And because he's going into the sajda, he's completed the 5th rakat. You can't abandon it now. You can't say, right, I stood, I can go back down. You can abandon it. So this is a rule. You can abandon the rakat before the sajda, before your head touches the ground. So even if you're on the way to sajda, you can abandon it. But if you do the sajda, and Imam does the sajda in this case, he's abandoned this prayer. This whole prayer is no longer a fard prayer. Again, it becomes a nafil for him. So it's not wasted either. We don't say it's wasted. He gets a reward of praying, obviously, not the fard prayer. So it basically doesn't count as a fard. You need to pray a fard prayer after this. That's what it means. So because it's turned into nafil, that imam now has to pray a nafil, a fard prayer to make up for the fact that he didn't complete his prayer. Now here's the, like I said, it doesn't get nicer, it gets worse. Here's the bad thing for you as a follower. You can't now do your final sitting with the imam. Imam's gone into a nafil prayer. He can't come back to you and join you in the fourth rakat. So your prayer also becomes nafil, right? Nafil for everyone. Right, so yeah, so you know, imam's messed you up there. Yeah, he has, right? So him not returning, so you're giving salam before the imam gives sujood, your prayer's gone. If you wait for the sajda, he comes back before it, you're safe. So that's why you should wait for it. He does the sajda, your prayer's gone. Meaning in either situation, your prayer depends on what the imam does. You haven't got control here anymore. You gave your, you know, when you decide to pray behind an imam, you gave him control of your prayer. If you remember, if halfway through the prayer he breaks his prayer, what happens to your prayer? It breaks, right? He makes a mistake in the prayer, you go to sajda to sahu, you got to follow him in his mistakes. So he's at the end of the prayer, he's messed it up, it's become nafil for him, it becomes nafil for everyone. Okay, everyone's prayer is now nafil, if you could see that. And you all have to repeat it again. The only way in this situation, remember the first one you can finish by yourself, that's the first one at the bottom in blue, you give salam by yourself, because why you did this final sitting, right? On this situation, the only way you can finish this fard prayer is if the imam comes back and sits down before making the sajda in that so-called fifth rakat. Okay, if he comes down and sits and says, you know, before the sajda, that's it, carry on with him, and your prayer will become a valid fard prayer. If he doesn't sit down and he carries on to do a sajda of that fifth rakat, your prayer is invalid as a fard prayer. His prayer is invalid as a fard prayer. All your prayers turn to nafil, and you can obviously finish your prayer. You've done 4 rakats nafil, you give salam, and you've sat at the end of it, but not a fard prayer, right? So it's a bit more detail on this one, but hopefully that makes sense. Any questions on that, Hassan?
No, that's fine. I think the last bit that you just cleared up there regarding the prayer becoming nafil, I was going to ask on that, what if the imam actually finished the fifth rakat, but we covered that.
Yeah, so what would happen actually for the imam, because he's doing a fifth rakat, yeah, he should add another rakat, so you make it 6. So once he's doing that fifth one, he should realize, oh, whether he realizes or not, he thinks he's doing rakat number 3 maybe. So he's going to do number 4, he'll give salam. So he should do 5 and 6 and give salam at the end with the sajda of sahu, with the prostration of forgetfulness, which we'll talk about later. But for you as the follower, your prayer is just nafil, you give salam and you just, you know, pray again basically, and you can do the jamaat again. But yeah, so what happens to the imam is, because he's in the fifth sajda, he just carries on with the prayer. If he does just 1 rakat and gives salam, it's okay because he's just an extra rakat. But really, there's no 5 rakat nafil prayer. There is 6 rakat nafil prayer. There's 2, 4, 6, 8. You can do them like that. You can do 6 rakat nafil all in one prayer. You can do 8 rakat nafil all in one prayer. Obviously, you give salam after 2 more commonly, but there is a concept of just praying 4, 6, 8 rakats together. And it's reported from the Prophet ﷺ on rare occasions, but it's allowed. So the imam's just done 6 rakats, fine. Yeah, that's what happened in the end. And he's nafil. So he gets 6 nafil, you get 4 nafil. Nobody's got fard. Yeah. Complicated one, but I think if you, hopefully from what we've put on the screen there, everyone should be clear about that. And if not, rewind and listen again and ask a question, maybe. Welcome, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, go ahead, Hassan, let's carry on.
After the imam recites the tashahhud in the last sitting, it is disliked for the follower to offer the finishing salam before him.
Yeah, what that means is you're finishing the prayer together, you know, you've done the tashahhud, so you have to do the tashahhud with the imam. But as you can see, that's a condition of completing your prayer with the imam. So once that's done, the tashahhud, remember we said, is up to ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. That's what it means here. So now you're reading the salawat on the Prophet ﷺ, the durood sharif, you're reading the dua at the end. You decide, you know what, I'm just going to give salam and leave. Yeah, I'm going to finish my prayer and get off. We're going to get off earlier, you know, a few seconds before the imam or everyone else, right? What does it say? It says it is disliked. That means it's makruh tahriman. It's not disliked, just or a little bit of a dislike. It's makruh tahriman, but it doesn't nullify your prayer. It doesn't make your fard invalid or turn into a nafil. You've done all the integrals, the arkan with the imam, so your fard prayer is complete. There's just one thing left. You've even done your du'as, you've done everything. You're just waiting for the imam to give salam. You decide to give your own salam before the imam. You finished your prayer. So you finished your prayer now. The thing you've missed is to do your salam with the imam or slightly after the imam. Having missed that, you missed a wajib. So missing that last wajib of being with the imam for salam, there's no nullification or breaking or invalidation of the prayer for that. It's just dislike. It's bad. It's makruh tahrim, meaning it's sinful to a level, because you shouldn't abandon your imam without a reason. Though, if there is a reason, like you got a genuine reason that your wudu is about to break or something, or you're at the door of the masjid or something, and by the time you give salam, there's going to be a big rush, this, that, the other, and there's people coming in and out, and I don't know, I'm going to get salam and get off. There might be a reason. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a reason. Then that would be okay, because you're trying to save some problem from happening or avoid a problem. That would be okay, yes. But if there's no reason, just say, I just want to just finish 10 seconds before everyone else, then that is not going to invalidate your prayer, right? Because you've done the arkan with the imam, which is the last rukn. In fact, Bismillah, Hassan, what are the 6 arkan, Hassan? Off you go.
The Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar, brilliant. Allahu Akbar.
Fatiha.
The Quran recitation.
Quran recitation, good too.
Wudu.
No, that's before prayer, in the prayer.
Oh, right. Okay.
Ruku.
Ruku, good.
Standing up from ruku.
No, we actually missed one out. Standing up in the beginning. So, Allahu Akbar, standing up, Quran, ruku. What's after ruku now?
Sajda.
Sajda. Standing up from ruku is wajib. It's not fard. But it's
right. Okay. I had that.
Sajda is fard, and then one left, number 6.
The sitting, the shahud.
At the end, so the last tashahhud. Brilliant. Thank you guys. Excellent stuff, right? So those are the 6 arkan. Okay, the 6 arkan of salah, right? If you do all those with the imam, your prayer is complete. And if you leave the imam after that, before he stops the prayer, that's the ruling there. The only time you can leave is before the last salams. So if you do that, it's disliked, bad, but it doesn't invalidate your prayer. Okay, hopefully that makes sense now. Yeah. In the Hanafi madhab and other schools of thought and other opinions, not just one person or one school of thought, what is the ruling on once you finish your fard prayer, and there are sunnah prayers after, so for Fajr and Asr there isn't, what do you do straight away after that? There's 2 options. You can either do the adhkar, meaning the dhikr, the sunnah recitations from hadith, from du'as, from Quranic, Ayat al-Kursi, etc., after the fard prayer. Or you've got sunnahs to pray, like Zuhr, Maghrib, and Isha, right? 2 sunnahs after each of these prayers. What do you do first? It says to pray the sunnah straight away and link it to the obligatory prayer is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, meaning you don't sit down for a long period of time and do a lot of dhikr and this and start reciting for, like, say 10-15 minutes, which if you add up all the sunnah dhikrs, which we're going to go through as well, actually we're going to talk about some of them shortly, that will take a long time. Now you leave them, you pray the sunnahs first. This would be for Zuhr, Maghrib, and Isha, and after those sunnahs, and if you want to pray nafil as well, that's fine, you sit down and you do the sunnah adhkar. Okay, that's the first ruling there mentioned. Okay, carry on, Hassan.
It has been reported that Shams al-Aimma al-Alwani said that there is no harm in reciting invocations between the obligatory and sunnah prayer.
Yeah, so there is a difference. It says it's been reported that Shams al-Aimma al-Halwani, great scholar of the Hanafi fiqh, says there's no la ba's. La ba's means there's no harm, meaning it's okay. Although other texts, as it says in the commentary there, will say otherwise. There's been discussion amongst the fuqaha, the jurists, over this and what should actually happen, and so forth. I think the best way to put this is whatever you're accustomed to and whatever you feel is most beneficial, that would be the I think stick to one routine is what I would say as well. That's probably an important part of it as well. And from my experience, so I just actually, obviously you look at imams and scholars. So when I was in Syria, when I was in places with ulama, then I noticed some great Hanafi scholars. They would just pray the sunnah straight away. You see them basically do ulama salam, aminka salam, barak ya dhal jalali karam, stand up, Allahu Akbar. So they would really very short dhikr. I mean, from the time you give salam to the time you stand and pray, you can say a few things, right? They would say a few things, and then just pray their sunnahs straight away. Yeah, so I would, and that's my kind of practice as well, to attach the sunnahs to the fard prayers, inshallah ta'ala. But yeah, la ba'as, meaning there's discussions on this, so don't worry about it too much, whichever practice there is, right? Bismillah.
After the Imam offers the final salams, it is recommended that he move to his left side and perform the optional prayer, which follows the obligatory one.
Thereafter,
it is recommended that he face the people.
Yeah, so again, this is in Dhuhr, Maghrib, and Isha. After finishing, you're going to stand for the sunnahs. Which way do you go? Do you go to the right or do you go to the left? You go to the left. Why to the left? Because it's the right of the Kaaba, right? So if you, obviously wherever you are, it's the right of the Kaaba. So when you normally do tawaf, you go to the right, right? You do anti-clockwise. You go into your right, which is the left of the Kaaba. That's how you do it, tawaf. Whereas when you finish your fard prayers, whether you're at the Kaaba or you're here in the UK or in America or Africa, whatever, you go to your left because you're going to the right of the Kaaba, right? You change spot. The main thing is to change spot, and it's preferred to go to the left, i.e. the right of the Kaaba, but you can go right and left, right? And pick a different spot. The more spots you pick, the better, because every piece of land, every piece of that masjid will bear witness for you that you prayed there if you pray on it. So make sure you always pick a new spot and don't stick to one spot. Try and pray in different places, as many places as you possibly can. That's actually beneficial for you to do that. After you've prayed your sunnahs, and if there's no sunnahs like Fajr and Asr, you turn to face the people. The Prophet ﷺ would commonly turn to face the people with his right hand side. So he'd turn to his right, and obviously the right hand side of the saf would therefore, he'd be facing them. And that's why the companions prefer to be on the right as well, because the Prophet would face that way the most. He would sometimes face the left to show it's fine. Facing both ways is fine. So you turn to the people from either side and face them. And then obviously you finished your prayer now. Now we're going to be doing the sunnah dhikr. So you sit there as the imam doing the dhikr of the sunnah, which is, Hassan?
One is to seek forgiveness of Allah 3 times.
Yep. And then over the page, the rest of the things.
This is followed by reciting the verse of al-Kursi and the Mu'awwidhatayn.
Mu'awwidhatayn.
I should have read the Arabic there. One is then to glorify God 33 times, praise God 33 times, and magnify His greatness 33 times. After which one is to say, none has the right to be worshipped except Allah alone without partner. To Him belongs all the sovereignty and praise, and He is over all things omnipotent. Thereafter, one is to supplicate for himself and the Muslims with his hands raised, and is to wipe his face with his palms upon completion of their supplication.
Jazakallah khair. So after the prayer, we follow the sunnah in terms of recitations. What do we find in the hadith? We find the Prophet ﷺ read Ayat al-Kursi after the prayer. He did istighfar, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. There are other du'as, Allahumma inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Allahumma la mani'a lima a'taytu la mu'tiya lima manat wa la yanfa'u dhal jaddi minka al-jadd. There's additions as well. The famous one is obviously the Ayat al-Kursi. And like we said, if you're attaching the sunnahs to the fard, then Ayat al-Kursi comes after. In Fajr and Asr, it'll come straight after the fard. Then you do your tasbih, which is 33 times Subhanallah, 30 times Alhamdulillah, 34 times Allahu Akbar. And at the end of that as well, you can do 33 Allahu Akbar, and you can do that La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. And then after this, you also can recite Qul huwallahu ahad, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. The Mu'awwidhatayn are the last 2 surahs of the Quran, the 2 protective surahs. They give protection. Mu'awwidh means the one that gives protection. Mu'awwidhatayn, the 2 that give protection, that give refuge and keep harms away, right? These were used for that by the Prophet ﷺ and by Muslims ever since. You can Surah Ikhlas is mentioned, but you can read Surah Ikhlas is mentioned in other reports, and you can read Surah Fatiha as well. And I remember actually that when we were in Syria, and this is like an Ottoman tradition, and those who've been in Turkey probably experienced this as well, that they have an appointed, so the Imam can do this, but usually they have an appointed person for this. So at the end of the prayer, after the Sunnahs or after the Fard and Asr and Fajr, they'll hand the mic, or they'll let sometimes without a mic even, right? They'll put forward the person appointed. I don't know what the name of this person is like technically, right? There was a name for this person. Sometimes it's just the mu'adhin that takes that role, sometimes a separate person. And what they do is they read this, not out loud, but they read it. So sometimes they'll say like, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. That's it, to go silent. So they're telling everybody we're doing the dhikr of the sunnah, reminding them before they leave the masjid or the hustle bustle of their lives. It's like a prompt, right? And then they won't recite it fully out loud. They'll just write at the beginning, and then obviously to themselves, everyone should be reciting. The sunnah is recite by yourself, and so everyone should recite Ayatul Kursi to themselves. Allah la ilaha illa qayyum la ta'khudhu sinatun wa la nawm lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. They say Ayatul Kursi. Then they'll raise their voice slightly. They'll say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. And Qul huwallahu ahad. So you recite Qul ahad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul a'udhu birabbil falaq. So it's a prompt for people who may not know the Sunnah recitations, or might be, mind might be wandering, playing on their phone, to read the Quran, read the Sunnah dhikr, right? So it's like a nice little way of leading everyone politely. You don't have to stay for it. There's not like obligation at this point to sit there and be part of this and so forth. It's etiquette to do so. I mean, if you want to do your own dhikr and you do it quicker than that, that's fine. You want to get off, that's fine. But it's there to prompt the congregation, right? Everyone, all the Muslims there to follow. And then they'll say, when it gets to the tasbih, they'll say, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ دَائِمًا Subhanallah, Subhanallah. And then they'll go quiet, meaning do it Subhanallah 33 times. Everyone knows the Sunnah is 33 times. And then they'll say, رَبَّنَا لَكَ الْحَمْدُ Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. They'll go quiet. So they do a few tasbihat, or tahmeed as well, hamd, praises, and they'll go quiet. Then Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And then they'll finish with La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. And then, like it says, make the dua at the end. So they'll make a congregational dua. They hand the mic back to the imam, or somebody else might be requested, a guest, to make the dua. And after the dua is done, people will leave the masjid. And like I said, you don't have to stay for any of this. This is just recommendations and how we can hopefully get more productivity out of our visit to the masjid. I don't know, Siti Bassam, you went to Turkey, didn't you? Did you notice this in the masajid when they did the prayers? So when you were in Turkey, did they do this after the prayers? Like, did they do the dhikr together?
Yeah. Every prayer they did the zikr together.
Yeah. So who used to lead it? The imam or someone else?
No, it used to be, so in Turkey they have like a raised platform in every mosque, or they'll have like a space at the back.
Yep.
So somebody would go and recite. Usually they would recite at the back of the Jamaat as well. And they would go straight to that spot. And I think they would do the dua as well. They would do the dua and the dhikr.
Yeah, no, that's done sometimes. The same person does the dua, yeah. No, yeah, so that's why I'm saying it's a tradition that to keep people engaged and not just leave the masjid and rush off to their worldly lives. They would do that. So yeah, it's a good practice. So it just mentions, so I'd share that, because that's the practice in Syria as well, because of the Ottoman tradition there, and so forth. Yeah. It's not required, like I said, your sunnah to do the dhikr, whether you want to do it or not is your choice. You should of course do it. Do it by yourself is ideal, and that's what should be done. But often, general Muslims in general, we all kind of need a prompt. So it's good to prompt people. Yeah, so that ends the section on what to do after the prayer. We now move on to a new section, which is what breaks the prayer. So long section, many things will break the prayer and many things won't break the prayer. So we're going to do both kind of sections. So first of all, what nullifies the prayer? Over to you, Hassan.
The 68 things that nullify the prayer. So that's speaking a word during prayer, forgetfully or by mistake, renders the prayer void.
Yep. So speaking. Yep. So if somebody speaks 2 syllables, so u, 1 syllable isn't going to break the prayer. But if somebody says it, That's one syllable as well. So, you know, two syllables, that's a syllable, I believe it or not. It went, two syllables, that's it, that breaks the prayer. So if you say it, you know, just say it and you stop, you've protected your prayer. One syllable doesn't break it. So any two syllables that are actual, you know, you end up saying, then whether you do that forgetfully, whether you do that deliberately, whatever, that will break the prayer. Okay, so speaking is not allowed in the prayer in any circumstance. So if you've got to warn somebody, it's an important thing, do that, break your prayer, deal with it, and come back and pray. So you can't say, oh, please watch out for that, and then carry on praying. You can't do that. Okay, you can do a ishara, you can warn them, you can, you can be praying like this and say, like, no, like, do that, and then go back to prayer. That ishara doesn't break the prayer, invalidate the prayer. I will talk about the next section. You can, you know, give a sign. You should not communicate with them, but unless there's a need or you think that is important or something. You just keep praying. But yeah, speech will break the prayer. What's that? Two syllables. Yeah. Okay, Hassan.
Supplication with words that resemble the general speech of people.
Yeah, so we had this before as well. At the end of prayer, you do the dua that resembles the sunnah duas or the Quranic duas. You don't make duas of, oh Allah, give me food, or Allah, you know, do this, that, that's a worldly kind of dua. It can be a dua in Arabic that's like the sunnah duas as well, but it has to be something of, give me patience, give me, mercy, protect me, and you know, forgive us our sins, etc. Any worldly, get me married, for instance, is not what you do in the prayer. Okay, it's a dua, of course. You can do many duas. Dua for simple things are good and allowed as well. But here in the prayer, the duas have to be Quranic or Sunnah duas, right? Not whatever you want to ask of any level. If it's of the level of the Quran and Sunnah duas, the content basically, then that's okay. So don't make dua anytime during the prayer. So anytime during we talked about the end of the prayer, it's not, you know, you should make duas from the Quran and Sunnah. But similarly, if you're in your sajda, if you're making dua any point in the prayer, don't make it from that speech which resembles normal everyday speech. Even if it is a dua, it will invalidate the prayer. Okay, next one.
To utter salam with the intention of greeting others, even if one does so forgetfully.
Yeah, so you know, you see someone, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam, oh, I'm praying, too late, right? So speech breaks the prayer, including giving salam in prayer to someone, whether it's initiating it or responding to it. If you give it out loud, I mean, with a speech, then that will break the prayer. Yeah, straightforward.
Replying to someone's salam with the tongue or by shaking hands.
With the tongue would mean, you know, saying salam, and shaking hands would mean shaking hands, right? Because you're going to do a lot of actions when you shake somebody's hand. I don't think you're praying, right? It's not classified as praying when you're shaking someone's hand. So that would break the prayer. Okay. By the way, in the early parts or early days of Islam, giving salam in prayer was allowed. So the Sahaba would come and they see the Prophet praying, they give him salam, he gives salam back to them. He'd come in and he'd give salam, they'd give salam back to him if they were praying. So that was allowed initially, but later on the Prophet said, you know, the prayer is sacred, there's no speaking, there's no talking, there's no giving. And he himself didn't respond to, I think, Abu Hurairah who once, and he got worried. I think it was maybe Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, I can't remember, one of the companions, and he got really scared. Like, I come in and I give salam to the Prophet, he's not replied to me. Is he upset with me? So he went to the Prophet after he finished praying. He said, Messenger of Allah, I gave you salam. You didn't respond. And the Prophet said, look, before we were allowed to give salam in the prayers, respond to salam in the prayers. Now it's not allowed. So because it's not allowed, it breaks your prayer. Okay. Next one, Hassan.
Excessive movement.
Yeah, excessive movement. So anything, what is excessive movement? It's given an explanation of that. 3 consecutive movements, right? So you take 1 step, 2 step, 3rd step, your prayer is broken. You know, you move your arm once, twice, 3 times. It's, you know, you're waving your arm around, that's prayer broken. What they really say is that excessive movement is any movement, even if it's not 3 consecutive movements, but it's a movement that you would think, wait, that person is not praying, right? That person is doing something else. So if you move a lot, so just excessive movement means a lot of movement, right? If you move in such a way where an onlooker would look at you and say, right, he's not praying, he's messing about, he's, you know, checking his phone, he's doing this, that, the other. So, you know, you can't just take this rule of 3 movements and say, look, as long as I do something within 3 movements, it doesn't break my prayer. No, if it's something that makes you look like you're not praying, then you're not praying, right? Movement, right? So if you move around in a certain way, somebody will say that person isn't praying. That's just too many movements, or too big a movement, or just crazy movements. Just something that completely contradicts the prayer, like checking your phone, right? that would break the prayer. Okay, so the idea is you got to be praying to Allah, at least appear like that, right? Allah knows what's inside your heart, but outwardly you got to be praying, right? You can't do the outwardly, breaks the outward prayer. Obviously the inner will affect the inner prayer, your sincerity, your submission, and so forth. But we can't judge the inner. Can't tell you, you weren't sincere enough, pray again. But the outer can be judged, and you can show it to others, and Allah, and that's what we rule by. Fiqh rulings on the outer, right? And therefore, if somebody is messing about outwardly, breaks their prayer, right? So yeah, excessive movements break the prayer. Next one.
Turning one's chest away from the direction of prayer.
Yeah, so you have faced the Qibla. We know that's a precondition, and you must remain facing the Qibla throughout the prayer. What if you turn your head away? It doesn't make a difference, because it's not about the head. You can turn around, look over your shoulder even, but your chest has to remain within that 45 degrees on either side. So you can move it slightly, 10, 20, 30 degrees. I wouldn't go more than that. But yeah, if you move it slightly off for whatever reason, it doesn't invite, it's obviously not good to do that either. But turning away from the Qibla, turning the chest away from the Qibla, would break your prayer. That's what it says there, turning one's chest away from the direction of the prayer, meaning more than 45 degrees. So if the Qibla was directly on, that way say, then I'm going to show you 45 degrees, like that. Oh, there we go, right? About that much on either side, yeah. If you turn away, so I've gone just about 45 degrees, I reckon now, and then that's too much. I can see my side now, right? It's too much. That's breaks the prayer. If I did that with the chest, but if I did this with my head, my chest is still facing forward, and then I look back. So I'm like this and look down there and then look back. That's not right. That's bad. It reduces the prayer. It's disliked, but it's not a nullifier of the prayer. So turning your head doesn't nullify the prayer. Looking up with your eyes and then down with your eyes doesn't nullify the prayer. Turning your chest away from the Qibla more than the 45-degree limit will break your prayer. Okay, next one.
Eating something from the outside of the mouth, even if it is small.
Yeah, so you can't eat whilst and drink as well whilst praying. Okay, it's not allowed. Okay, you're not fasting, but you're praying, right? So in prayer, you're not allowed to eat, drink, talk, do worldly things. You're in a sacred state. Like Ihram in Umrah or Hajj has certain sanctified rules. It's a sanctuary. It's got certain injunctions. So has the Salah. That's called Ihram. This Salah starts with Tahrima. Ihram, Tahrim. Making sacred. So you can't eat or drink. So if anything comes from outside, you pick it up or you take it. I don't know how you're going to take it. Somebody puts it in, I don't know. Whatever it is, if you then swallow that, you eat it. So just coming in the mouth doesn't break the prayer. Swallowing it will break the prayer. Right? So eating something from the outside of the mouth, even if it is small. Okay, anything. Yep.
Eating that which is between the teeth, even if it's the size of a chickpea.
Yeah, so if it is the size of chickpea, so if you've got something stuck in your mouth, which you could have, especially now you're eating the sahur or the sahri meal, and you come to Zohar, you wake up in the morning and you're in prayer, of course, for this. We just mentioned the fasting rule as well. If you eat something very minute stuck between the teeth whilst you're fasting, it was there from sahur, it doesn't break the fast. So you got a little piece of, I don't know, cornflakes you had at breakfast or something, like toast, very tiny amount, it's stuck between the teeth. All of a sudden it comes out and you swallow it, less than a chickpea, then that doesn't break the fast. Similarly, if you're in the prayer and there was something stuck between your teeth, it's not come from the outside, of course, it's within the mouth, and it's less than the size of a chickpea, you haven't noticed it, and during the prayer it comes loose and you swallow it, it won't count as eating or nullifying the prayer, right? So that doesn't nullify the prayer if it's between the teeth, stuck in the teeth, and it's less than the size of a chickpea. Those who don't know what the size of a chickpea is or what a chickpea is, please Google it and you'll kind of get an idea. They do vary, so the average size, right? The smaller and larger ones, but they're not massively big variance in their size, but an average size chickpea, not the cooked ones. They expand when they cook, right? The normal size chickpea. The cooked ones are quite big, actually. They'd be too big. So yeah, a normal size dry chickpea, that level, and it's your judgment. So I'm not sure. It's your judgment. If you feel like it's too big, it nullifies your prayer. If you feel like that was small, carry on with your prayer. Okay. Next one, Hassan.
Drinking.
Yeah, drinking. I think that's straightforward. If you drink anything, breaks your prayer. Next one.
To clear the throat without a reason.
Yeah, so cleaning your throat, just for no reason whatsoever. Obviously, if it's paining you, if it's to clear your throat for recitation, and so forth, there's a reason, then that's fine. but you got absolutely no reason, and you're like, what do that for? I just felt like doing it. There's no reason for that, right? You weren't feeling a tickle in the throat. You weren't feeling a bit awkward. No, just felt like doing it. You just broken your prayer. Okay, so don't just for the sake of it clear your throat, right? It's got to have a reason. Obviously, in the fact that it's annoying you and making you lose concentration and you feeling awkward, of course you can clear your throat. Of course you can clear your throat with recitation. If you've got a cough, you're clearing your throat anyway. You're coughing anyway. It's not a problem. But there's no reason whatsoever. You're just there and randomly you just want to make a, what? Why do that for? I just felt like doing it. I don't know. Just felt like it. Well, yeah, start your prayer again. Now you've broken your prayer. So please don't just make unnecessary noises. Belching and burping obviously is not good, but because you can't control that, it doesn't break the prayer. Yawning doesn't break the prayer. We're going to come on to those kind of things. But yeah, so, big burps and belches and whatever, which might happen. We're not at the masjid in these days in Ramadan, but often you do hear these in Ramadan. Those don't break the prayer because they're obviously human nature to make those sounds and stuff. It's not, you didn't do it deliberately. It just happened, and just look after your diet more than anything else. Yep. Go on, Hassan.
To groan, moan, or sigh.
Yeah. So to say, oh, yeah, groan, moan, ooh, yeah, making sounds. So it's not just breathing air in and out, right? Groan, moan, or a sigh, or extra inhalation or exhalation of air with the sound or with this, if it's not for fear of paradise. So
Audible cries due to pain in the body or due to a calamity, but not the audible cries due to the thought of paradise or hell.
But not if it's crying due to the, you make crying sounds due to the fear or longing, fear of hell and longing for paradise. In that situation, it's part of the prayer. The Prophet ﷺ would, you cry out of the fear of Allah or out of, the awe of Allah is probably a better word. Then yeah, that's part of the prayer. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But if it's just a cry out of pain or just out of sorrow, let's say, you've got news of a lost one and you start crying in the prayer, due to that would break the prayer. Yeah. Not crying out of fear of hell and longing for paradise. Yeah. Okay, next one, Hassan.
Replying to a person who sneezes with the word, may Allah have mercy upon you.
Yeah, so if somebody sneezes and you reply, Yarhamukallah, that breaks your prayer. You can't respond to somebody outside of the prayer. So yeah, that would break the prayer. Yeah.
Responding with the words, there is no deity except Allah, to someone who is asking if Allah has a partner.
We were on responding to the person who says Yarhamukallah or sneezes, and you say Yarhamukallah, and also responding to somebody who asks the question about, is there a creator? Is there a partner, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And you reply, La ilaha illallah, for instance, right? Then in that case, that would that break the prayer or not? Yes, it would. Right? That would break the prayer. Yep.
Okay, next one. Responding to bad news by saying, to Allah we belong and to Allah we shall return. Or
yeah, so somebody gives you bad news whilst you're in the actual prayer, right? What do? You don't do anything. Obviously in your heart you're feeling sad, but you end up saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That would break the prayer. So responding to bad news with Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un breaks the prayer. Yeah, it breaks the prayer. Okay, next one.
Or responding that, just to complete that, or responding to good news with all praise be to Allah.
Yeah, so responding to good news with Alhamdulillah. So whether you respond to bad news or you respond to good news, it will break your prayer. Yeah.
Responding to amazement by uttering, there is no one worthy of worship except Allah, or responding with glory be to Allah.
Yeah, so also responding with glory be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would also cause, if you got amazing news, say subhanallah, right? That would break the prayer. Any response with words will break the prayer. Whatever dhikr it is of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will break the prayer. Carry on.
Anything that is intended as a response nullifies prayer, such as the verse, "O Yahya, take hold of the book."
Yep. So any response, any jawab, it says, qusida bihi, that you intend to respond to somebody will break the prayer. So you could even use some of the Quran. Like somebody says, can I take the book? You say, you recite the Quran, you say, Ya Yahya, khudil kitaba bi quwwah. That's the ayah in the Quran. Oh Yahya, take the book with strength. So you've indicated to that person, you can take the book. You can't do that. You can't use the Quran to respond to somebody. But I recited the Quran, right? I'm okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. It's not valid to do that. Okay?
When a person is in a state of tayammum, sees water and is able to use it, his prayer is nullified. Additionally, when the period of wiping the foot is complete, the prayer is annulled, and the same rule applies to the person who takes off his foot in a prayer.
Yeah, so if you are somebody who is in tayammum and you see water and you're able to use it, so you could be doing tayammum due to illness or you've not had access to water. You see the water, you've got access to it, you can use it, that will break your tayammum, which will then break your purification, which will then break your prayer. So the tayammum needs to be renewed, and then you've got to start the prayer. You can't continue the prayer, you've got to start afresh. And similarly, if you were wiping over leather socks, the khuffain, and the time expired, which is going to be rare that you pray at that time, but if it did happen, we need to know the ruling. Then yeah, that would nullify, or it would end the wiping time. It would mean your feet are no longer valid to be wiped, or your leather socks on. Therefore, that's nullified. Your prayer breaks. Your wudu kind of it stalls or breaks, and then your prayer breaks. So you got to start the prayer again with the after completing your purification again. Or you end up pulling them off during the prayer, i.e., so one of your leather socks comes off during the prayer. It will break the purification of that foot, which means your wudu is not complete anymore, which means therefore your prayer becomes nullified and you've got to start again. What was the next one, Hassan?
If an illiterate person learns a verse,
If a person learns a verse, right, this is a rare situation. Almost, I don't know if it's impossible. It's not impossible. It's mentioned. Is that if somebody may apply to a new Muslim or somebody who's not aware of how to recite, who's learning to recite, and they can't read the Quran properly or even know much of the Quran and how to recite it. And whilst they're reciting, right, he's praying his own prayer and he's reciting. He's not reciting properly or not reciting enough to even have a valid prayer. All of a sudden, he learns how to recite and he learns that I can say these words and, I'm okay now. That prayer needs to be started again. So it invalidates the prayer. So to learn an ayah, it says, then during the prayer, this is not the beginning of the, if you learn the beginning of the prayer before you recited, that's fine. During the prayer, you've now learned an ayah. Okay, wait a minute, I've prayed some of the prayer without proper recitation. Now I can recite properly. That means you can recite the whole prayer properly. You've got to start. Like I said, very rare situation. What we recite is fine, by the way. Even if it's not perfect tajweed, it's still recommended and wajib to kind of work our way up the tajweed. But in terms of actual validity of prayer and the lack of being able to pronounce the correct words, it is considered a blemish, but it's not invalidating. Okay, and we need to work to lift that and have proper recitation, learn tajweed and chronic recitation. But it doesn't infect the validity. Otherwise, I think most people's prayer would be invalid, and that's quite strict, and the deen is merciful and not harsh, right? So it does require you to learn that, and we should make the efforts, and there's beautiful rewards in that, and your prayer will become enhanced, and your connection to the Quran will become much more deeper and stronger. But it's not invalidating of the prayer in of itself, unless there's major errors, and if there are, then do speak to a Quranic teacher, Quran teacher, and start rectifying those major mistakes. That could be nullifying your prayers. Yeah. So yeah, the basic errors or lack of perfection and proficiency on nullifiers, right? So when it comes to recitation, there's a bit of leeway there. It's pretty lenient and merciful. Alhamdulillah. Next one, Hassan.
finding clothes to cover one's nakedness.
Yeah, so that would mean that the person had no clothes and then during the prayer found some or had access to some clothes now and can cover himself, that would nullify the prayer. You can't put the clothes on, carry on, or put clothes on during the prayer. You just got to start again and with the clothes on. Yeah. Next one.
If a person who prays by nodding his head becomes able to bow and prostrate normally.
Yeah. So somebody who's bowing and prostrating, is praying by indication. So what that means is the person is ill, okay, and you can't do a proper ruku and sajda on the ground. Sajda mainly, because ruku is bending. Probably can do that, but can't do sajda on the ground. So he's praying by indication, right? So indication is like Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Sami Allahu liman hamda Rabbana lakal hamd, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbi. It's only indication. You don't have to move your body massively, as long as the movement for ruku is less than the movement for sajda, which is more, right? As long as you do that, ruku higher, sajda lower, you are of a reason, illnesses, conditions, legs, back, whatever it is, you can't prostrate. But all of a sudden during your prayer, which could happen, you get better and you think, oh wait a minute, I've got the strength to actually prostrate and I can move. Alhamdulillah, I didn't realize that got so much better. If that happens during the prayer, start again. You can't continue the prayer because while you were praying by indication, and now you're going to pray with the actual prostration on the ground. There's two different things. You can't combine them. So you would you would start again. Yeah.
The remembering of a missed prayer, one which is required to be performed in order.
Yeah, so inshallah in the future, we'll come across the idea of keeping order of missed prayers. The Prophet ﷺ and the companions, they missed their prayers in Battle of Ahzab, not deliberately, they were kept away from their prayers. And the Prophet was upset, ﷺ, and they made them up. So there's a concept of making up missed prayers. And they made them up in order, and they didn't make them randomly. And there was only that one occasion. There was another occasion they missed one prayer as well, due to the place they were in. They missed Fajr, and they prayed that again together. So when you're making up prayers, they need to be made up in the order. So if you missed Fajr, you can't pray Zuhr until you've made Fajr up. Okay? However, if you forgetfulness is a valid excuse in this regard, that I have to pray Fajr and just pray Zuhr. Your Zuhr is fine. You've prayed Zuhr. What do you do when you can't do anything at the moment? When you remember, I didn't pray Fajr, you can pray Fajr after Zuhr. Might pray the Zuhr at 3 o'clock and then I didn't pray Fajr, pray at 4 o'clock, whenever you remember. That's fine. That doesn't affect anything. The mas'ala here, it says, to remember that you have a missed prayer. Well, first of all, the whole idea is you're praying. The whole section here is somebody's praying. What breaks their prayer? You're praying Zuhr, yeah, and you've missed Fajr because you're somebody who needs to pray prayers in order, right? You need to keep the order of prayers. You've missed a prayer, therefore. And you remember within the prayer of Zuhr, you prayed 1, 2, 3 rakats, and you're like, I didn't pray Fajr. What do I do now? It breaks your prayer. That's what it does. So your Zuhr is no longer valid. You've broken the prayer. What happens? You can finish your prayer, so you can make it nafal. So when we say break the prayer, guys, we don't always mean just stop. Sometimes it just means your prayer turns from fard into nafal. So it was fard. So you would have, had you prayed it and not remembered Fajr at all, like we said, it would have been a proper Zuhr prayer. That can happen. Like we just said, you pray Zuhr and you remember Fajr half an hour later, fine, your Zuhr is done. So it was a fard prayer ongoing, and it could have completed it, but because you remembered your Fajr during the fard prayer, you change your fard into a nafal, because you can't pray the fard before the one before it, right? You got to pray them in order. And therefore you finish off the 2 rakats or 4 rakats, you can pray them and get nafal rewards. So if you prayed 1 rakat, you can just finish 2, even though so this is a funny one, you intended 4 rakat fard of Zuhr, Allahu Akbar, subhanakallahumma bihamdika wa tabarak asmuka, I've got a Fajr to make up. You can pray 2 rakats nafal right now. You don't have to, like I said, you can just say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You break your prayer and you say 2 rakats Fajr to make up from this morning, Allahu Akbar. And you make that up first, then you go on to your Fajr, you go into your Zuhr, you pray your sunnahs, let's say, right? You remembered in your fard. If you remember the sunnahs, it doesn't make a difference. Sunnahs are sunnahs, right? You're talking about the fard, the prayers need to be in order. So if you remembered within the prayer, it's broken your prayer, it's turned into nafal, you can complete the nafal, 2 rakats, or you can go 4, or you can give salam, make up your Fajr, and then go back to the Zuhr. Yeah. So the ruling is, if you remember a missed prayer that needs to be kept in order, this is only for people who have a few missed prayers. Some of you might be listening out and thinking, well, I've got a few years of missed prayers. Does that mean I need to pray 5 years of prayers before I pray the next prayer? No, it doesn't. It means that you should be praying them slowly along with your normal prayers, because making 5 years of is not possible in one prayer time, or even 1 week, maybe probably. It takes several months if you were fully focused to do several years of prayers. So you don't have to worry about that. This is a ruling for, it says here, Lidhi tartibin, for the one who has to. The one who has to is somebody who's got no missed prayers and misses 1, 2, or 3 or 4, a small amount a day. 5 is the max. If you missed 1, 2, 3, 4, you missed half a day of prayers and so forth, they need to be kept in order. Okay, they must be kept in order, and therefore you are somebody who has to keep your prayers in order. Somebody who's got years of make-up prayers doesn't come under this particular one, right? So if they end up missing another prayer, just add it to the list of 3, 4 years, 5 years, right? So it doesn't really affect the order for them. There's no order for them. The order, this whole order thing and, you know, systemizing it is dropped, because it's just too complicated for somebody who's got many years of prayers to have that. Somebody who's got a few prayers can keep it in order. The whole section on this is coming later anyway, so I'm not going to mention more about that. But just to remind us of this masala, if you do have to keep your prayers in order, like, you know, alhamdulillah, I have no make-up prayers to make up. So I'm somebody who, if I missed a prayer, like Fajr of this morning, which, you know, alhamdulillah, because Ramadan, we're praying our prayers on time and early, right? So if you know, for hypothetically speaking, you know, just saying it, and now it's Zohr time, just about coming in, probably half an hour left, right? And I hadn't prayed Fajr. I should pray straight away, I know, but just saying I haven't prayed Fajr. Zohr time comes, I make wudu, and I pray my sunnahs, and I pray my Zohr. And whilst I'm praying Zohr, I've got Fajr to make up. I've only got one prayer missed. I need to make that book before I pray Zohr. I can't pray Zohr first. What do? I remember now, whilst praying the Fard of Zohr, I stop. I pray my Fajr, so I stop this prayer. I pray my Fajr, and then I pray this prayer, current prayer, okay? The full rulings on that, so that's what happens, that's the ruling here. The full rulings on this and all the other scenarios and questions you may have, we will leave until the section on the order, the praying in order and missing prayers and praying, making them up in order. It's a whole section, it's lengthy discussions. But for now, we'll just leave it at that. Does that make sense, Hassan, what I've said?
Yeah, that's clear.
It's clear, yeah. So the concept of what we need to learn now, which is if you've got 1 or 2 prayers to make up, you need to make them up in order. If you don't, and you remember during your prayer, it breaks the current prayer, and you got to go and make up the previous ones. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Carry on then.
If during the prayer the Imam is replaced with someone not eligible for the position of Imam.
Yeah. So during the prayer, you appoint somebody who's not eligible. So there's a concept here of, first of all, the Imam can have a deputy, right? So if the Imam needs to leave or finds that he's going to break the prayer or has got a problem or something, any reason, before leaving, not after you've left. Once you left, you're not part of the prayer. Whilst you're in the prayer, you can signal, you can even, you know, give ishara, you can even step back one little bit and pull somebody forward slightly, and you basically make them go forwards. And again, this would be in slow movements, not 3 movements together. And because it's part of the prayer, you know, something like, oh, they're substituting, they're not breaking their prayer. So it's part of the prayer, right? We know people, this can happen, and I've seen it happen. It happened to us once in Syria. We were in our institute, Mahad al-Dawli, and we were studying, and I think it was Zohr prayer. We came down for the congregation in the main hall, in the prayer hall, and big congregation, like all the students from all the classes, probably a few hundred people. And one of the teachers was leading the prayer, the calligraphy teacher. I remember, because I remember the incident. And all of a sudden, he started to pull out, and another teacher, because there were teachers in the front, in the main stuff. I was to one side. I think I was maybe on the front or the second row on the right, towards the very far right. So he walked around us. So that's why I remember. He walked. I was like, "What's going on?" And the Imam changed. I'm like, "Oh, we've read about this. You know, you can point to the Imam. This teacher had to leave for some reason. Obviously, he's gone." And he's appointed another Imam. So we read about 1 rakat behind the first Imam, and then we read the rest of the prayer behind the second Imam. But we just carried on our prayers. So that's called istikhlaf, right? It says, wastikhlafu man la yasir. Istikhlaf, you make somebody your khalifa or your representative or somebody who carries on the prayer after you, right? It happens in prayer. Only happened to me once in my whole lifetime, and it happened in that prayer that time. But we read about it, and it is something you can do. It's not common, and it's not for the lay folk really. It's for the scholars and the imams and those who know what they're doing. So we learned it, we saw it once, which is actually good, because I now I'm confident enough to, if like that ever happened, I can do that. I know what to do. It's not difficult. Just so that's why they say, by the way, and Hassan, you may have heard this, the person who prays behind the Imam directly should be somebody who knows the rules of prayer, knowledgeable. Have you heard that, Hassan?
No.
No, you haven't. Not learned much, have you? Astaghfirullah. So yeah, no, the person who plays directly behind the imam should be someone, not a random person who's know nothing, should be a scholar, knowledgeable person, somebody who knows the rules of prayer. Hence why they say, let the scholars pray behind the imam, let the notables, the learned pray. It's not to give them the front spot, and obviously that is part of it, but really one of the main reasons is if anything happens, there should be somebody knowledgeable enough to carry on the prayer and substitute. Yeah, do you get that, Hassan?
Yeah, no, it makes sense hearing that. It makes sense. I mean, the only time we get close to something like that is obviously Ramadan in Taraweeh, and
Yeah.
generally the fathers are doing Taraweeh, and then you'll always have the fathers right behind them. But yeah, no, it makes sense now that you've explained it.
Yeah, and that's another point as well. So like in Taraweeh and even in normal prayers, it makes sense because if the imam gets stuck on the recitation, who should be correcting him or guiding him, let's say, not helping him? Shouldn't be somebody from the fifth saf back there shouting, saying, it should be the person right behind the imam. It should be somebody really close to the imam who can even say it quietly or not too loudly and just prompt the imam from behind. Again, somebody who in the Tarawih is what happens, isn't it? The example, but even in any prayer, it could happen. Any prayer, the imam could forget or get stuck. So hence the reason of having those hafiz of Quran, the scholars of fiqh, and Maulanas who know what they're doing, to be there. And this is the wisdom of Islam if you think about it. Because look, we want the best prayer for everyone. Right? We want the most structured system that fulfills the responsibilities and roles and make sure everything is looked after. Well, yeah, put the knowledgeable people behind the imam, and they'll look after things, right? Not you don't have all of them there, but you need to have a few people there or one or two just in case something happens. Yeah, so that's what was the case, that normally they would give that spot, or there would be actually a second imam, believe it or not. So there's a first imam of masjid, and there are second imams. There's actually a second permanent imam in masajid. If the first imam doesn't turn up, he's late, he calls in or whatever, second imam takes over. Something happens to him during the prayer, second imam's already there. So they always had an appointed second imam by default there, whether he did anything or not. It was actually a paid position as well. Masjids might not like me saying it, but should have somebody sitting there just potentially for something and just get paid. They did that, and obviously when masajid were looked after from the endowment systems, there's many roles. So when I mentioned to you the muezzin was paid, the imam was paid, the khatib was paid, the person who hoovered up and cleaned was paid. There was a lighting person, obviously the manual lighting in the past, they were paid. The people who second imam was paid. So and the khatib, so on Jummah, the khatib was a paid role. There was somebody who sat at the bottom step, the deputy khatib, who was paid. So if the khatib gets ill or can't continue the khutbah or something happens, you just substitute. There was sitting at the bottom step of the khutbah of the pulpit, who would then take over and did escort the khatib down. The Jummah would carry on, and obviously some people would deal with the issue and so forth. So there was many roles. There was like 30, 40, there wasn't just one muezzin, there was several muezzin. There was a lead muezzin, there was the main group of muezzins, there were deputy muezzins, there was shifts. So some came for Fajr Salah, for Zohr Salah, for Asr Salah, and they did the Izan together. It's called the Jurqa Adhan. We had it in Damascus. Several voices come together to make the Adhan louder and get further and further. Obviously, these are ways of getting the message out that prayer is, time for prayer, and these were things. So it's amazing how we look at the systems we have. And something as simple as this has, it's very deeply, thought through and makes sense. Right? Alhamdulillah for Islam and our religion. Alhamdulillah. Right. So, yeah, we'll carry on. Sure, Hassan.
The rising of the sun at dawn.
Yeah. So if you're in your prayer and the sun rises, it's a time you can't pray. It's a makruh tahrim and time, and it invalidates your prayer as well. So basically, if you're praying Fajr, because that's when it would be, right? And that's it. Sun rises, you've done one rakat, too late to complete your prayer, right? Prayer's broken. What would you do then? You then wait till the sun has risen, the 2 spears length, or slightly into the sky, has got bright. Once it got bright, to look at is difficult. You wouldn't do that, but once it's got bright, then you can pray your 2 rakats of Fajr. You can, obviously it's going to be a make-up prayer, a qada prayer, because you've not prayed it in its time. But that's what happens. That's what happens for Fajr. So that's only for Fajr prayer. Next one.
When the sun moves from its peak at midday, both Eid prayers become invalid if the prayer is being offered at such a time.
Yeah, so if you're praying Eid that late, I mean, it's normally a lot earlier than that, right? But if the Eid prayer is delayed or it's being prayed close to the zawal, the zenith or the decline of the sun, which means it reaches its peak and then it starts going down, right? Then at that time, it would break the prayer as well, right? So if we go to the whiteboard and just give you an example, that's the ground, right? And for the first one, you're praying Fajr, the sun's below the horizon. I'm just going to go from left to right. As soon as the sun comes above the horizon, yeah, that little disc, yeah, and you're praying Fajr, so you were praying Fajr at this time, it becomes invalid if this part comes visible. The sun has risen, right? Now, the second masala was when the sun is going up and it's reaching its peak in the sky. Now, normally you'd pray Eid about here, not too long after Fajr, about there. But let's say you prayed Eid here, right? You prayed Eid really close to this midpoint, right? This midpoint will give a line. This is the peak, yeah? So if we were to draw a line of the journey of the sun, the highest point would be that point. This is not 12 p.m., okay? Nope, this could be like, currently it's probably about 1 or 3 p.m., right? It could be 11:41 a.m., right? It just depends what time it reaches there, right? The middle of the exact day or middle of the rising of the sun. So middle point between sunrise and sunset is this time. It's not going to be bang on 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. now. It's going to be slightly different. So you start your Eid prayer before the zenith, right? So Eid prayer is here. We've just done that. And your Eid prayer in this situation, which like I said is rare, it continued until it reached here, okay? At this point, this is called the zenith, right? And after it's called the zawal. So zawal is actually when it starts going down. It's called the zawal here. The zawal at this point isn't the zawal. This is the peak point. The zawal is when it starts going down. But your Eid prayer, let's give a different color for the Eid prayer. Your Eid prayer goes to here, okay? It's too late. Your Eid prayer became invalid at this midpoint. And by going into this point, just beyond it, like just a split second is what is required. So if you reach there, basically, you can now no longer pray Eid. Eid prayer is invalid. Khalas, finished. There's no Eid prayer here. Nope. Eid prayer time was from about this point here. You need to give a bit of time here, right? 30 minutes after sunrise. And all the way to there was your Eid time. You got all this time, which is several hours, right? It's about 4 hours probably, right? Maybe more, maybe it's 8 hours, right? Depending, 4 to 8 hours, right? Because this day and age, sunrise is about 4 a.m., 5 a.m., just after 5 a.m. ish, right? So, it's going to be a long time. But you decided to, like I said, pray late, it's invalid. Now, there's no qada of Eid prayer, so you can't make it up the year. However, if everyone hasn't prayed Eid prayer, then you can pray the next day. So normally Eid prayer, the small Eid is on 1st of Shawwal. That's the first day after Ramadan. If you don't end up praying it for whatever reason, normally it's for an excuse. So there's like cloud, rain, you can't go out, right? But 2nd of Shawwal, you can make it up. Yeah. 3rd of Shawwal, nope. So there's 2 days for Eid prayer. First is the proper day. For if a reason you don't end up praying it on the 1st, you can pray on the 2nd, right? Meaning if the community don't pray, not you as an individual. If you miss the Eid prayer on the 1st of Shawwal and there was 50 of them in your city, there's no 2nd of Shawwal, okay? If everybody didn't pray the 1st for whatever reason, it could be like the lockdown, and then they say, right, on the 2nd of Shawwal, we're opening the masajid, we can go pray Eid on the 2nd of Shawwal. Yes, you can, right? Can't pray on the 1st because it was illegal, right? And you can't open the masajid for the lockdown rules. 2nd of Shawwal, they were like, yeah, today we're releasing everyone. Off you go. But masajid should announce, you know what, we can pray Eid today. Let's go pray Eid. They could do that technically. I doubt it's going to happen. Like by the end of Ramadan, that's going to be that exact day. It'd be funny if it was, but I doubt it. But yeah, if we can't pray on the 1st for whatever reason, normally in the olden days it was rain, it was cloudy, it was too bad to go out because they prayed out in the open, massive one Eid prayer for the whole of Medina and surrounding areas. So just like now you have Juma in Medina, it's massive. The similar concept, it wasn't as big, but everyone came. So the masjid would never accommodate everyone. So they had to go out. They would go out into the open lands because the city was around the masjid. They'd go out into the open sort of outskirts of the city and they'd pray there. Now to go out there on a rainy day, remember it's dusty, it's sandy. They don't have umbrella systems and drainage systems and so forth. So people's clothes are going to get dirty. People are going to fall in the water, mud everywhere. It's going to create a massive mess. So they said, like, you know what? That's why they say, in the olden days when it rained, they prayed at home because they just create a mess everywhere, right? You go and soil the masjid, you soil yourself, and create havoc out there, right? So let's not do that. So they would delay the Eid prayers and prayers in general for the next day, or pray at home and stuff for rain. Now, of course, we live in a different climate. We've got cars, we've got solid brick buildings with drainage systems and sewage systems. So it rains on, the light all goes away, disappears. It doesn't build up. We don't have soil everywhere. We've got tarmac and pavements and bricks everywhere. So it's a different world we live in right now. So it's not, doesn't really apply to us as much. But that's another topic in itself. Yeah, Eid prayer will break if it goes into the Zawal time. That's the ruling. Yeah, next one.
When the Asr prayer time enters on Friday.
Yeah, so on Friday, I mean for Jummah. So if you're praying Jummah, which we're not, but if you were praying Jummah and Asr time enters on Jummah, it's invalid. Jummah doesn't count. And what happens? You've got to make up 4 rakat Zuhr. So all of Jummah has to be prayed in Jummah time. Okay, if it goes into Zuhr, you've missed your Jummah and you've got to make 4 rakat. It breaks the prayer and you've got to make up 4 rakat Zuhr, not Jummah. If you don't pray Jummah in time, that you started it early. So all these examples are prayers that go over their time. The Zuhr prayer, if it goes over time, doesn't invalidate it. The Asr prayer, if it goes over time, doesn't invalidate it. The Maghrib and Isha, they don't invalidate if they go over their times. Only the Fajr, Eid, and Jummah, if they go over their time, they get invalidated. So Fajr goes into sunrise, Eid goes into the Zawal, and Jummah goes into Asr. These 3 prayers will become invalid if they go out of their time. If you're praying Zohar and it's end of Zohar time and it comes into Asr, it doesn't invalidate. Your Zohar carries on, you finish praying Zohar. Obviously, it's bad because you prayed some of your prayer in Zohar time and it extended into Asr time. That's bad. You've delayed it too long. But it doesn't invalidate your prayer. You don't have to repeat it, you don't have to start it again. You just pray it as it is. But for these 3 mentioned here, it will actually break your prayer, and then you will either make up the prayer with Fajr. There's no Eid prayer make up, and there is a Zohar to pray instead of Jummah now. Okay? Bismillah.
If a splint or bandage falls off a healed injury.
Yeah, so if you've got a bandage, a part or something, and you've wiped over it for your purification, so there's an injury here, right? Could be anywhere, but obviously in the wudu areas, and you wiped over it for your injury, and then during your salah, it falls off, bandage falls off, it comes loose and it's there, and you look and it's perfectly fine. You're like, oh, that's fine, I can wash that. That breaks your prayer. Okay, it breaks your wudu because now you can obviously wash that area. Wiping is, we've just realized wiping is no longer valid. So because you realize that, what can you do now? You've got to go and wash yourself. You've got to go and do wudu basically. Your prayer is broken. Okay, if it falls off but you've not cured, so it falls off the bandage but you've still got that wound and problem there, then the bandage coming loose doesn't mean your wiping is broken, okay, and that your wudu is broken. That's an important point to note here. If it falls off and we see it's perfectly fine, your wudu is broken and therefore your salah is broken. Whereas if it falls off and it's still an injury there, just a pot or the bandages come loose, that will not mean your wudu is broken or your prayer is broken, right? So that's why it said there that if it falls off due to the cure, to becoming well, recovery, right? It's not just a case of falling off, it's to do with the recovery as well. Yeah. Healed injury. Yeah. Okay, good. Next one.
When a person who is exempt no longer suffers from his condition.
Yeah. So if you, in the prayer, this is a tough one to explain, but if you prayed and you never had to go through, so first of all, what's the other? Other is like a constant nosebleed, a constant release of wind, urine, can't hold it in, incontinence, whatever it's called. And in these situations, you can make wudu, and even with that discharge or that nullifier of wudu, you can pray. Does it nullify? For you, that is a other. The istihada for ladies as well. These are all other, that it doesn't matter. You just do wudu and pray, and it doesn't matter if that discharge occurs. It's too difficult to control and get rid of. It's not in your control. It's chronic illness kind of thing, right? It's an other. It's an excuse. Now, say that's happened to you, and now you've done wudu, and you're going to pray, and as you're going to pray, the excuse happens, right? So you carry on praying because the excuse doesn't break your wudu. Then what happens is that excuse doesn't occur for several prayer times. You know that when you prayed that prayer, that the last time it occurred to you was just before that prayer, meaning that's it cut off then, didn't it? It cut off. Let's say I'm going to pray Zohar, okay, and my nose stops bleeding, I've done wudu first. My nose stops bleeding, and I enter into prayer. Okay, so I'm praying Zohar. I prayed the full Zohar, but I bled before it, or I bled and then it stopped bleeding. So I did wudu. I was bleeding. It stopped bleeding. I prayed. This is the whole scenario, right? So number one, I did wudu. Let's write these down so everyone's following. Yeah. So number one, you did wudu. Number two, your excuse occurred. What's your excuse? It's bleeding. Right, nosebleed, menstrual cycle, the istihada, irregular bleeding, discharge. Then what happened? You prayed because you can. You've got an excuse. Your excuse occurred, right? Your excuse allows you to pray. Prayed. Let's just say it was Zohar. It could be any prayer. Let's say Zohar. Okay. Number four. No more discharge of blood occurred after two. What's two? This. Okay, so that was the last time. So in brackets, this was the last time. So you did wudu. You've got an excuse, so it doesn't matter if you bleed, right? That's the ruling. So you've bled, but you didn't pray. Then you prayed, okay? Prayed Zohar. Then after praying in Zohar, you didn't bleed, so no discharge in Zohar, no discharge. But they would just say was no discharge in Zohar. There could have been, but because we've done the discharge here, your excuse occurred here. It could have occurred in the prayer for the last time as well, before the completion of the prayer. Actually, that's how it works. But it's just fine. Take it here. There was no discharge, but you prayed Zohar after discharge. And let's say now you've prayed Asr. So you did fresh wudu. Actually, that was the next step. So you'll then do what? For Asr prayer, you'll do fresh wudu. Because I haven't got space, I'm going to put and pray Asr. And again, and no discharge during Asr all the way till Maghrib. And even after Maghrib, Isha, there's nothing left during Asr, right? So what do we realize at this point? When there was no, so you did a fresh wudu, you prayed Asr, right? We realized at this point that the last time you had the excuse was here. This, and that's why we said last time here. We realize this. We realize, right? We realize that the last time it occurred, meaning it ended, it finished, we haven't had it since then, was here, number two. Okay, when did we realize this? Not even at 5, after 5, right? So when the whole prayer time's elapsed, right? There's no excuse. Because if it happens in Asr, the excuse carries on. The rules of excuses are coming later. They've been actually, they've been in the section of purification. So you have to let Asr go completely. A full prayer time has to elapse. So no discharge during Asr. So that's what we said. During Asr meaning all of Asr, right? So when in Maghrib time, so actually at number 6, you're going to do Maghrib, right? At Maghrib, you don't need to do a fresh wudu if you've got wudu. My wudu of Asr hasn't been broken. I've not got an excuse though. I'm not a person who has an excuse. So when did my excuse stop? We realize, like I said, we realize here. So actually we realize at number 6. We realized, let's go back. We realized that your excuse ended here. Where was it? It was before you prayed Zohar. So you had no excuse here. So when you prayed Zohar, what was your state? No wudu because you bled, right? And your excuse had ended. So this was ended. Khalas. This excuse is not valid. This is no valid excuse. So when you went to pray Zohar, you actually had no valid excuse not to have wudu because your bleeding had stopped. You could have gone and made wudu and prayed without a discharge, and that would have carried on before the next prayer because we just prayed Asr without a discharge. So what basically happens at Maghrib is you got to make up Zohar. It's a complicated one, I know, Hassan, right? But that's what will happen in this situation. So,
Sheikh, sorry, just a quick question on that. Why would you have to redo your Zohar if you've done wuzu and your excuse has occurred? So at that point, you've got the excuses occurred.
yeah, because of what I've just said, we've realized that the excuse ended at the time it last occurred. So that's the ruling. The excuse doesn't carry on till the end of the prayer time. So it's not saying because it's occurred in Zuhr, all of Zuhr is now okay. No, it's the last time it's occurred is here. This situation, number 2, is last time, right?
Yeah,
That
but
means any prayer done after that time is no longer under the excuse. There's got to be a cutoff point. We've got to give the excuse, just like we gave it a starting point, we've got to give it a cutoff point. The cutoff point is not at the end of the prayer time. The cutoff point is when it actually stops. Because you know when it actually stopped. I stopped before I prayed Zohar. It stopped at this point. I know the last time it stopped. So that is the point you've got to look at. If, Hassan, and it could be the case, right, that you did wudu, you prayed Zohar, yeah, and then the excuse occurred, your Zohar is valid. Because between your wudu and Zohar, there's no excuse, right?
Yeah.
Then your excuse occurred after, let's say it occurred, or it didn't even occur, right? It occurred after. But then for Asr, you're going to make a fresh wudu. No excuse occurred in Asr. Fine, your Zohar and Asr are valid. So this is why we go back to this point. Your excuse occurring between the wudu and between the prayer is problematic, actually to the end of the prayer, like we said, right? To the end of the prayer. This is where you now need to think, you know what? My excuse stopped at 125. I did wudu at 120. The excuse stopped at 125. I prayed at 130. You know what? I need to pray my 4 rakat of the Zuhr again, right? You get that?
Yeah, no, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So when it comes to ending the excuse, you don't end it at the end of the prayer time. You end it where it actually ends, right? Where you actually stop the discharge, finished, right? And you won't know that until the next prayer, which is number 5 here. There's no excuse at all in that, right? So that's how it has to work, because it's connected to each prayer time. So this prayer time, there was an excuse once, move on to the next prayer time. There's an excuse once, move on to the next prayer time. Okay, there was no excuse. Well, when did it stop? It stopped at that point in the previous prayer time. Okay, from that point onwards, you are pure. All the rules of purity apply to you, and therefore, if this situation occurred to you in a very, tough situation, I suppose. Hopefully, everyone's got that. It would mean that your Zohar needs repeating. Yeah. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
Okay, carry on.
The prayer is void if one intentionally breaks his wudu or because his wudu breaks due to the action of another.
Yeah, so deliberately breaking the wudu, or if somebody else breaks your wudu, like cuts you or makes you bleed or something, I suppose, right? They could do that, or makes you vomit. I don't know. Somebody breaks, if you're vomiting, might not break the wudu, right? This is a mouthful. But anyway, somebody else breaks your wudu, or you break it yourself, like deliberately break your own wudu, like you go for a call nature or release wind, probably is the easiest one, right? In this situation, it will break your prayer. Now, you might think, why are we saying deliberately or yourself and somebody else? Is there a situation where your wudu breaks and it doesn't break your prayer? The answer is yes. There is a situation where if your wudu breaks, and you didn't do anything and nobody did it to you, so it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something happened and the wudu is broken. The example they give is if something falls on you, like an apple out of a tree and cuts you and makes you bleed, then that will break your wudu, right? Or you're overcome by wind and you can't hold it back, so you're going to break it. We don't release it yourself, it just overcomes you, right? In those situations, you've broken your wudu. In those situations, it does not break your prayer, because you didn't break your wudu, it came upon you, okay? And that means you can go and make wudu, because you've broken your wudu. It doesn't break your prayer. You can go renew your wudu and carry on with the prayer, okay? So it doesn't break your prayer, it doesn't break your wudu. You got to remember that. So bleeding breaks your wudu. You've broken your wudu. Okay, but I didn't bleed myself. I didn't cut myself. Nobody stabbed me or poked me. How did you bleed? Something fell on me. Okay, that's not from human action. It's from Allah. Okay, fine. It doesn't break your prayer. You broke your wudu. It doesn't break your prayer. You can go and refresh your wudu, come back, and carry on with the prayer. Unlikely, but it's possible for you to do that. Hence why it's mentioned. If you deliberately break your wudu, or if somebody else, a human being, breaks your wudu, it will also break your prayer. What it's trying to tell you is, if you don't do it and somebody else doesn't do it, but you're overcome by it, it won't break your prayer. I'm not going to go into that any further than that, because in reality, whenever you break your wudu, you're not going to really go and do a wudu and carry on. You're just going to start again from fresh. And I've never known anybody to think, right, I didn't break my wudu by myself. Something happened. Nobody did it to me. I'm going to go and refresh my wudu and come back and carry on with my prayer. You just start afresh, okay? But it is a ruling that it doesn't actually break the prayer. But it's a complicated one, so we're not going to go into the details. It's called Mas'alatul Bina. You can build a prayer on a previous prayer when your wudu is broken. How do you do that? This situation. And scholars said in the end of all the discussion, it's better to just start a new prayer and not build on the previous one. If your wudu breaks, start a new prayer. And that's what we all have done for our lives and will continue to do. But it is, nice discussion and, fiqh discussions that the scholars have that you could look into, inshallah ta'ala. But you know what, Hassan, I think we'll stop there because a long section. There's still a lot of masail to go through, and we'll continue from the same section next week, inshallah ta'ala. So alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. There's some questions here, so some people have posed questions on the YouTube, so we'll just answer those. It said, could you say the dua of Musa, which is recommended to do when wanting to get married? Yeah, but it's a dua. So this was the question of, does worldly duas break your wudu? And there's the dua of Musa alayhi salam, which is in the Quran. It's a Quranic dua, and it's generally for a need. So it's not really Musa alayhi salam said it for marriage, but if you just have, if you use the words of the dua in your prayer, it's fine. Yeah. So you're not saying marriage in the dua because there's no words of marriage in the prayer. It's the dua is Rabbi lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. Oh, I think that's roughly the words. Oh Allah, oh my Lord, what you have to send down of good for me, I'm much need of, which is a chronic dua, so it wouldn't break the prayer. If your intention was marriage, fine, but really, don't think of marriage in prayer. No. Is a mother allowed to move a baby's position during prayer if the baby's upset? Yes, without lots of movement. So if the baby's in a cot or next to the mother, or even mother can carry the baby and pray, by the way, right? It doesn't invalidate the prayer at all. As long as they're not moving around and stuff like that. It might not be practical to sajda in that situation. It might be, maybe things can be set up in the right way. But yeah, as long as it's like if you rock the, what do you call it, the cot or whatever, right, and stuff like that, or you just put your hand out, one movement, like if I do it, the one there and then back, that's okay. But constantly, with your right hand doing things and all that wouldn't be valid, because you're basically looking after a child and praying, where you're just looking after the child a little bit, like a movement which is very minimal, would be okay. Thank you to all of you who have tuned in. I think that covers the questions. So jazakumullah khairan, and now we can say walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.